Football season is in full swing. I know it's the summertime, but that doesn't mean football season hasn't already started. Mini camps across the NFL are up and moving. Today on Big B Sports Talk, we've got a friend, a host from Locked On Titans, Tyler Rowland. He is joining us today to talk all things Tennessee Titans. Let's get into this. Tyler, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing today, my man?
Big B, man, thank you so much for having me on. Excited to talk some football, talk some Titans. But yeah, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about the Titans because I do love some football. And you're right, football season is never over when you're a football guy. And I know you're a football guy, and football season is never over for us. So
absolutely,
I love the intro. Loved it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I try to pride myself on trying to get people to understand that football season, at least for me, and I know for a lot of people, it just never dies, man. It never dies. So
absolutely.
Getting into this thing, man, and I see your tagline there, Will Levis struggles, and I was going to ask a different question first, but you know what? Let's just get into this one. Does Will Levis have an opportunity to win the starting job this year?
I'll be honest with you, no. But I'll be honest with you about something else. I don't know how that got there. I think that could be maybe from a different show that I did maybe a couple of weeks ago. Let me correct that. You're good to go. You're good to go. But that is a good segue into the quarterback situation, which I'm sure, you know, if you are a Titans fan, it's something that everyone's been talking about. If you're outside of the Titans circle, it's probably something that people are very interested in. I don't think it's realistic to say that either of the young quarterbacks, whether it be Will Levis, whether it be Malik Willis, I don't think either of them have a realistic shot at Tannehill. And I think one of the things that has made that obvious has been mandatory minicamp, has been OTAs. Tannehill has just been much sharper and miles better than both of the young guys. We've seen improvements from Malik Willis from last season. Levis is kind of where you expect him to be. The struggles was more of an individual day. He's responded with some better practices. But at the end of the day, I don't think that anybody is going to challenge Tannehill. I think he's going to have a stranglehold on the job unless he gets injured, which then the conversation of who gets to play Malik Willis or Will Levis would be very interesting. It's something we talked about, the backup quarterback position on my show. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody's really truly challenging Tannehill. If he stays healthy, he'll be the quarterback for this team.
Gotcha. And it's a good segue because, you know, a lot of people, when they took, you know, Levis early, you know, in the second round, it wasn't as early as what he or a lot of people thought he was going to get drafted. But when they took him, I think the thinking was, okay, he's moving into the starting job and maybe the Titans are in rebuild mode. Do you see that being the case? Because, I mean, they were basically, you know, they were a game away from making the playoffs last year. So, and winning the division. Are they in rebuild mode?
Well, I think the Titans are in a unique position compared to other teams because of the weakness that is the AFC South. Right. I think that if the Titans were in the AFC West behind the Chargers and the Chiefs, then yeah, I think they maybe have to face the music and actually rebuild. But I've continued to say so far up to this point in the offseason, the Titans have basically tried to walk two paths. They've tried to ride the fence. They take who are the best two players on the Titans offense? Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. Right. And you use your second and your third round pick on those same positions, backups to those guys. Spears is going to play behind Henry because he's a change of pace back. But in a perfect world, Levis wouldn't play at all. And you traded up in the first pick of the second round to take a guy who's not going to play at all in the final year of Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill's contract and Kevin Byard's situation unsettled. Like, if you're really going all in on the last year of Tannehill and Henry because you don't want to rebuild, then why did you neglect the wide receiver position? Why did you use two of your first three picks on backup players? You know, those are questions that should be answered. But on the other hand, they didn't give out any long-term financial deals in free agency. They gave little spot deals for 1 or 2 years for little guaranteed money to different guys who they who they think could be starters, who were backups on previous teams. So they've tried to, we're not giving any future commitments. We're drafting young players at these
Right.
two positions. But at the same time, they've told the fan base, oh, all these guys we signed can be starters. Oh, these rookies can actually help. Oh, the wide receiver position isn't that bad. Oh, Tannehill and Henry, we're still trying to win. So I think that right now they've tried to walk down two paths, and I'm worried they're only going to walk down the wrong one. If you try to walk down two, you only find the wrong one. But if they add DeAndre Hopkins, like has been talked about in the news lately, if they do that, then that probably changes the dynamic of the team. But for me, I look at this Titans team and they're caught in between truly committing to a rebuild and trying to retool and, still say that they're winning. I think it's going to be a tough place to be. I think it's the worst place to be in the NFL. I see the Titans winning 8-9 games this year if they stay healthier than they have been. And I just think with where they're at, it's a tough place to be as a team in general in the NFL. You want to be at the bottom, especially this year, to get one of those quarterbacks, or you want to be one of the top contending teams in the NFL that can really win a Super Bowl. Right now, I think the Titans are in between those marks.
And I can 100% appreciate that. As a diehard Steeler fan, look, the Steelers have been in that conundrum since 2016. I mean, it's just right in that mark to where you get a pick between 17 and 21. You're never going to be good enough to win the Super Bowl, but you're not bad enough, and it's just like, okay, which way are we going? And I think all Steeler fans thought last year was going to be the year that the Steelers said, you know what? We're not going to be good. We got this rookie quarterback. Yeah. We're going to get a top 8-9 pick. And lo and behold, here Mike Tomlin does his thing. And
Mike Tomlin is Mike Vrabel. I mean, without the Super Bowl ring, couldn't you see Vrabel, even if he leaves the Titans, he could win a Super Bowl ring one day. He's a good coach. If you have a good GM to put the right talent. Mike Vrabel and Mike Tomlin are a great comparison. And I just hope that Mike Vrabel is Mike Tomlin and can get that one championship. That you're lucky. You've had 7 now? So 6 now for the Steelers.
Yeah.
So the Titans have a combined 0. So just get one before I die, and I'll be happy, Mike Vrabel. I'll live with that.
Yeah. I think Mike Vrabel is a great coach. I really, really do. I think he relates well to players. He's tough. He understands what it's about because he was a former player. And not 100 years ago that he was a player either. I think that makes a difference. When you get other coaches that coach or played, 35, 40 years ago, that's a difference with a guy that didn't play that long ago, so
players remember him.
Absolutely.
They remember watching him score touchdowns on TV with Tom Brady, and that matters, I think,
Absolutely matters. So I think they got the coach in place. I'm not that big of a Tannehill guy. Kind of give me the what's what as far as Titans fans. How do they feel about Tannehill?
Well, it's very split. As if you took a big group of people and asked them about anything these days, I think the answer could be they're very split.
Absolutely.
But so the truth is Tannehill is the second best quarterback in the franchise's history since they moved to Tennessee, excluding, Warren Moon and further back. Trying to keep it simple here. Speaking of recency, and people remembering that. But I think outside of Steve McNair, Tannehill's the best quarterback the Titans have ever had. I think the statistics will prove that. He'll have better statistics than Steve McNair when it's done because of the different era in football and having Arthur Smith as offensive coordinator with A.J. Brown, who I think is the best wide receiver in team history, even in the short years. That's a little controversial, but that's different talk for another day. So there's the side of this is the second best quarterback we've ever had. He took us to the AFC Championship game a couple years ago, coming in off the bench in the middle of the season.
Yep.
He's been the most statistically productive guy we've had. So some people look at all those things and are like, how could you hate this guy? Like, don't you remember Jake Locker and Charlie Whitehurst and Zach Mettenberger and the list goes on? You know what I mean? So don't you remember those guys? Like, how can you hate on Tannehill? But then there is a different side of people. And it's the side that I'm on, honestly, at the end of the day, where I'm a bit, hey, I want a Super Bowl. And if the guy can't win a Super Bowl, I don't care how many records he breaks for the team. I don't care how close he was to Steve McNair. If he doesn't get them to a Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, then none of it really matters, whatever, winning the Super Bowl. So I see it as kind of like pessimistic people and optimistic people. And I'm an admitted pessimist. So
Right.
like pessimistic people are like, well, he's never won anything. He's choked in big moments. That choke against Cincinnati, he will
Whew.
be remembered for that for his entire life. Like when
Yeah.
people think of Ryan Tannehill, they'll think of him getting injured and failing in Miami, and they'll think of him blowing it for the Titans against Cincinnati. That is what people will think of. And for better or for worse, I think that is who he is.
Right.
He has averaged 150 yards a game in the playoffs for the Titans. He's gone 2-3. He hasn't won a game since 2019. I just don't think he's a winner in the playoffs. He can be okay in the regular season. Still never thrown for 4,000 yards with the Titans.
Right.
So he's just going to be, he's 35 now. The question is Tannehill good enough to win a Super Bowl if you put greatness around him? Well, I would argue that the Titans are never going to put a better cast around Tannehill than they had around him in 2019 and 2020 when they had A.J. Brown, younger Derrick Henry, a better offensive line, a better complement outside of A.J. Brown with Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith and Arthur Smith, who is so good he got a head coaching job. Tannehill will never have a better supporting cast than he had in those years. So why would we expect Tannehill with a lesser cast to do more than what he did with a better cast? So I think some people just know as long as Tannehill's the quarterback, this team's not winning a Super Bowl. We have to hope that the next guy, whether that's Will Levis, Malik Willis, or somebody else, the next guy is capable of winning a Super Bowl. And some people are like, hey, the Titans are going to win games and be good, and that's better than when they were bad. But some people are like, if we can't win a Super Bowl, what are we doing? So that's the dynamic. And I find myself on the other side of, I think the Titans should have cut Tannehill, saved the cap space, gone with Malik Willis, gone with Will Levis, whoever they want. If they're good, they're good. Congratulations. You found a guy on a rookie contract who's good. If they're bad, Caleb Williams and Drake May, maybe you're good. So the Titans didn't want to do that. And now all I can hope, because I'm not in control, all I can hope is that they find a way to maximize and get as many wins as they can, just so it's a fun season to watch. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. And I think you're right, because I think the thinking is I think the brass believes that the Titans can win the division. I think that they're thinking that they were that close to winning the division. And I think, you know what? We can win this division because the division's not very good. The Jags are good, but the Colts are not. The Texans are not. So they're all rebuilding. I believe that they think they can win the division and that Tannehill gives them the best chance. I think I'm with you. I have a nickname for Tannehill. I call him Basket Case Tannehill because I don't think that he is that guy. That might be being a little too hard on him, but I just know what I see. I'm an outsider looking in. And again, you brought up that playoff game against Cincinnati. That was horrific.
He has no swagger, man. Your quarterback has to. You saw Big Ben. The Big Ben is the type of guy where he wasn't, flashiest guy or whatever, but he had this machismo about him. He had this aura around him, and he was very confident. He'd throw guys off of him and let them know about it. And like Tannehill is just like, it's just like a stock creative player on Madden. Like if you did a randomly generated team on Madden and it just made random players, Tannehill, 82 overall, 81 overall, like that would just be it. You know what I mean? So like, and I feel like the only people who are on the optimistic side who are like, if you get a good cast around Tannehill, they could put are Titans fans. I feel like anybody who follows a team that isn't the Titans would be like, what are these people doing? Trade Henry, cut Tannehill, play young guys, tank for the quarterback. Sure. And if the Titans get Hopkins, which again has been in the news recently, then I think maybe they could realistically say, hey, once we get in the tournament, anything can happen. I think that maybe they could do that. But right now, with the wide receivers they have on this team, it's laughable for them to sell to the fan base. We're going for a championship. This team is winning. We're retooling, not rebuilding. Like, it is a bit laughable. They need to get Hopkins. And if they don't, I just don't see how they can respectfully look at their fans and sell winning.
Right. And then the whole thing with Hopkins, I mean, this is off subject a little bit, I guess. Him going to Tennessee, if you're in his situation, and I guess maybe it's not off subject. Why is Tennessee a destination that he would want to go to in his position? I mean, is there been any talk about that? Because you would think a guy of his caliber that's made this money, he would want to go to a winner. somebody that can win. I'm not saying Tennessee is a loser or anything. I'm just saying he would
No,
want to
no,
go
yeah.
to like the Chiefs or the
Right.
Bills, someplace like that where, you know what, it might be him that separates him from winning another Super Bowl. Is there something that we don't know that is luring him to go to even visit Tennessee?
Well, man, I don't think that it's anything that we don't know, because I think if we all look at ourselves in the mirror at the end of the day, we know that that's what it is. And I think it's money.
Yeah.
That's the only. Why is he going to visit the Titans to play with
Right.
Tannehill? Why is he going to visit the Patriots with Mac Jones, who I don't even
Right.
think is better than Tannehill? And on their best days, they're the same. So,
Correct.
like, what the only, and we've seen some reporting to indicate this, he wants another good payday. He doesn't want to go play for $2-3 million and go for a championship. And look, while we can sit here, and I agree with you, I write for Sports Illustrated for the Titans, as well
Right.
as doing the Locked On Titans podcast. The first thing I wrote when I heard that he was going to visit or be a free agent was, hey, I know the Titans need him, but come on, man. Like,
Right.
realistically, why would Hopkins come here to play football? And the only answer that you can find realistically to separate the teams you mentioned, the teams that really have a chance at a Super Bowl this year, the thing that separates those teams and the Titans and the Patriots, or like the Steelers, you know, your team, is they don't really have a realistic chance to win a Super Bowl. So the only
Correct.
answer is, oh, they can offer him more money. Now, I will say the Titans have, I did kind of a fun episode on my podcast to start off the week where I pretended like I did the DeAndre Hopkins visit.
Okay.
And 3 things that I sold him on were familiarity, football, and finances. So
Okay.
familiarity, they do have Tim Kelly as the offensive coordinator, who was an offensive assistant with Houston during Hopkins' best 3 seasons, 17-19, and he was the OC in 2019. So clearly, Tim Kelly knows where to get him the ball, how to get him the ball, how he wants the ball, all that stuff, so they could sell that to him. Mike Vrabel, Hopkins did an interview when Vrabel got hired with the Titans and said he thinks Vrabel can win championships. He connects to his players on and off the field, football and, you know, your private life. He knows everything. So he clearly likes Vrabel. So you sell him on that. He's not going to find a connection out there that he likes. Bill O'Brien is in Houston, but Bill O'Brien tried to, or in New England, but Bill O'Brien tried to trade him, and they didn't get along.
No.
So you know what I mean? It's, you can't, there's familiarity there, but not the kind you like.
Sure.
So he likes Vrabel. Hopefully he likes Tim Kelly, and they can sell that familiarity. The Titans have 190 targets available. I mean, they let go of Robert Woods. They let go of Austin Hooper, some other guys they moved on from. The Titans could give Hopkins the ball more than just about anybody else.
Right.
Especially more than, so if he is thinking, I'm going to play this year, do awesome, and get another big contract next year, he's not going to be able to do that in Buffalo or in Kansas City, probably, because he's not going to get the ball that much. They're going to save him for the playoff run. So the Titans could give him the football reasons to do it. And then finances, the Titans could probably pay him the most money. A lot of people talk about salary cap space. What's really important this time of year is cash spend. These billionaire owners give their guys a budget. Hey, you can spend this much money this offseason. And a lot of teams have already spent that money in guaranteed cash. So they don't even have the guaranteed money to pay the guy. The Titans haven't spent a lot of big money this offseason compared to recent off seasons. So the owner would be willing to shell out more money than maybe some of the other owners, maybe not Robert Kraft in New England. That might trump the deal right there. But, you know, I'm just saying that's a factor in this as well. It's not like, we all know you can fudge the contracts and add void years and manipulate the numbers to do whatever you really need to do. But do you have the guaranteed dollars you got to pay the guy, like literally pay somebody money? Are the owners adding that into their budget? Do they have that at this time? That may be some of the issue with some of the better teams in the league as well, because we saw the Bills go add Leonard Floyd. The Chiefs added somebody here recently. I can't recall off the top of my head on the defensive side of the ball. So these teams are dipping into the last bit of money their owners allow, and that's almost more important than the salary cap aspect.
Yep.
So the Titans football, familiarity, and financials, they have a logical case if Hopkins cares more about money than winning a championship, which it seems like he does.
Yep, absolutely. So digging in a little bit here on the Titans, Derrick Henry, his name has popped around, you know, being traded, not being traded. And in the last year of his contract, what are the plans? I mean, I know they drafted a guy, but he's not the caliber of Derrick Henry. Let's just be honest.
Right.
So what are the plans for the Titans with Derrick Henry? Does he get a new contract, a team-friendly contract, or do they just move on? Is there any plans for him in the future?
I think that the Titans could realistically bring him back after this year. But I think going forward for Henry, it'll be 1-year deals.
Gotcha.
Or a 2-year deal to put a dress on it and make it look nice. That's actually a 1-year deal and guaranteed money. 2
Got it.
years, $20 million with $10 million guaranteed. That's a 1-year contract for
Right.
$10 million that looks like a 2-year because it makes the player look better. The team looks better. The fans holding on to the guy. I don't think you'll see any more long-term deals with Henry. And just look around the NFL. I mean, Dalvin Cook getting released, Zeke Elliott not finding a home, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs haven't signed their franchise tag tenders because they don't want to play for that money. There is some teams were, I don't want to say dumb because that's not the right word, but some teams were persuaded into paying running backs while half the league was like, wait a minute, this isn't a good idea. We shouldn't do that. And the Steelers really were the team that kind of forged that forward with Le'Veon Bell.
Absolutely.
They're like, Le'Veon's like, we're not giving you more than that. Le'Veon's like, I'm not playing. And the Steelers were like, okay, then don't play. It's going to hurt you more than us. And guess what? They were right.
They were right.
Le'Veon Bell's career tanked. And we've seen teams that give these big time running backs big contracts. Todd Gurley, Devontae Freeman, Zeke. They always end up releasing them. Dalvin Cook just signed a 5-year deal worth $63 million and got cut after 2 years.
Right.
So the Titans just brought in Rand Carthon as their general manager, and he came from San Francisco. San Francisco's been incredible the last few years at having a committee of backs that are undrafted or 6th round. And they all look like beasts, and you pick them up in your fantasy league and all this and that. Well, I think the Titans' new general manager, who came from San Francisco, is like, that's probably what we're going to do going forward. So it's funny that you said the guy the Titans drafted, Tajay Spears, isn't the caliber of Derrick Henry, and you are right. He is not. But if you go to a committee approach you draft a power back to go with him, he could be your lead back in the offense with a power back to complement him in a different way than Henry. No, you're not going to replace Henry with a bell cow back and keep the same style. You'll go to that running back by committee, which is 14 years in a row. The Super Bowl winner's leading rusher has made less than $2 million.
Yep. It's crazy.
You just don't running back. It's just too easy to find cheap running back production. So I think that if Derrick Henry has a 1,500-yard year again, 1,600 yards, double-digit touchdowns, and he just looks like Derrick Henry again, I think the Titans could potentially bring him back. But for me, it would only be like a 1-year commitment because of what we know about the running back position. It wouldn't be any more long-term deals. I don't think Henry would get that from anyone going forward. So I think he could be with the team going forward, but it would be 1-year commitments. And the odds are that the Titans just go running back by committee and try to use their money more wisely after the season.
Gotcha. Makes sense. And it's unfortunate for the running back position that's what it's going to. But at the same time, the one that really surprised me is that Dalvin Cook one, because the guy is 26 years old. It'd be one thing if he was 30, or something. At 26, you can't say the guy is finished at that point. I mean, but it is what it is. I mean,
and it's not even about that. It's just if why would you pay Dalvin Cook $12 million a year when you could get 80% of them and pay $800,000 a year to a 6th rounder?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's just cost risk analysis, and it just doesn't make any sense to pay running backs big money. And teams are just done with it, man. They're done with it.
They've changed the way that they do it. And like I said, it is what it is. Eventually, I think that'll turn around and things will change. But as of right now, the way things are going, it's just that's the way that it's going to be. Yeah. So it's interesting for what you said about Derrick Henry, because you're right. It would make perfect sense for them to just keep bringing them back. I thought Dallas was going to do that with Zeke, but I think Dallas just said, you know what, we're done. Just move on. But I don't think the Titans would do that, especially if he's still playing well. I mean, if he's still playing well, that's one thing. Now, if he falls off a cliff this year, that's a different conversation. But
there's no way happening. And there's no way. He trains too hard. People forget, he is a running back, and he's not going to break all these running back curses. He got hurt after 370 carries. That happens. But he's probably going to have more longevity than people think just because of how hard he trains. He's a unicorn in that sense.
Absolutely. So moving on, I mean, going back to the quarterback position, Last year, they took Malik Willis. This year, they take Will Levis. A lot of people said that Malik Willis was way behind. He got an opportunity to play at the end of the year. They had to bring in a guy off the street to come in and take his spot. Didn't look good. Is there an opportunity for him to make the roster this year? Or is he still in the plan somewhat? And are they giving him a chance? Or have they just said, you know what, we're just going to move, or at least wait and see, but possibly move on?
Big B, I'll tell you this. We aren't in the room. We don't know. We can't know how they really feel. But why did they trade up into the front of the second round?
Yeah.
Tried to trade with the Steelers.
They sure did.
Tried to trade it into the back end of the first round. They were trying to go up to get Will Levis if they believed in Malik Willis.
Right.
People can talk, and Malik Willis has looked improved during this summer workout period. He looks more comfortable. He's getting rid of the ball quicker. He's more decisive, all of those things. He's catching up to the speed of the game. But what I've been saying all along is Malik came in as like a 1 or 2 out of 10. And let's say you got to be a 6 or a 7 to be a starter in the NFL, like low level, Gardner Minshew, 6 out of 10, can start a couple games. Malik came in as like a 1 or a 2. The guy hadn't taken snaps from under center since he was like in Pop Warner.
Exactly.
And he definitely didn't have these insanely wordy play calls. No. And it's not that he can't do it. It's just he never has. So there was such a big gap between where Malik was coming in and where he'd have to be a logical starting quarterback that it's just hard to imagine him ever getting there. It's just such a far place to go. They changed the offensive system this year, so it's a brand new playbook with different calls and different adjustments and things like that. And I think that may have hurt him a little bit. Again, the football stuff, he looks smoother, getting rid of the ball quicker, all of that. But if the Titans believed in Malik Willis, why would they trade up to pick Will Levis? You know what I mean? Yeah. I think Malik Willis was a selection of the Titans' former general manager, John Robinson, who was fired after A.J. Brown whooped the Titans all day long in 4K. It was ridiculous. But the new general manager and Mike Vrabel, I think, wanted Will Levis. So it's hard to go against the favorite kid. You know what I mean? So Malik would have to do so much to find a way to not only make the team, but to play and have confidence from the team. I just don't see it happening. So to me, I don't think that Malik Willis makes the roster because I don't think the Titans are going to want to keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53. I think they go with Tannehill, of course. And I think they go with the guy that they just traded up to select, even with Malik being picked last year, and that's Will Levis. So I think Malik probably gets cut by the Titans. I think he probably gets picked up on waivers by another team. I think Seattle would make a lot of sense behind Geno Smith. There are some other teams that could take a shot on him. I think he gets picked up by another team and given another chance, but I don't think that he ends up making the roster for the Titans.
Right. Yeah. The same thing. I said the same thing when him coming out. I was like, the gap between him, and again, this is not necessarily a knock on him, but the gap between him and being able to play was just so great from where he came from, speed of the game, all of that is just too great. There's guys that have done it, absolutely, but he was just not in that caliber. That's where the difference comes.
And he played at Liberty. People always people want to compare him to Jalen Hurts and I just to me it's like, man, those guys, Jalen Hurts played at Alabama and Oklahoma. This guy was playing at Liberty. They may have good talent, Malik has talents, there's no doubt about it, but it's a fine line between being good enough to play in the pros. And 100%. I just don't think that Malik is there. And there are some weird things where last year after a game, he started when Tannehill was hurt. He said he's just as happy as if they won or they lost. And he did the whole, I'm breathing, I woke up today, I'm blessed, blah, blah, blah mindset. And I just think that's a great mindset for life. Like you meet somebody on the street and that's their mindset. Great for them. But in professional sports, you got to be almost like a maniac. Yep. And I just don't know if he's quite there. And last year, fourth and 1, tried to draw the Texans all sides with a hard count and he couldn't do it. He started laughing. He literally couldn't execute the hard count because he thought it was funny or something and just
almost like he doesn't love football.
He's a good person, and I hate, saying it the way that I am, but he's a real religious guy. And I think that he's just going to make such a great impact on people's lives, like throughout his life. I
Yeah.
just don't think that's as a professional athlete. I just don't know if, I'm not, again, it's weird because these are great qualities for regular people to have. But to be a professional athlete, I think you got to be a little maniacal. And I just don't know if he
100%.
feels that way about it. And there's nothing wrong with that, like
No,
there's nothing wrong with that.
not
So,
at all. Not at all.
right.
Not at all. So looking at some of the roster, what they did in the offseason, is there anybody or anything out there that they picked up? Like, are there any below the radar additions that you think can make the roster and make make a difference on the Titans season this year?
Yeah. I guess I'll look at it from this standpoint. I think that a low-level free agent
Mm-hmm.
that I don't want to say low level. He was actually probably mid-range if you line it up.
Sure.
I think that Sean Murphy Bunting, the
Yeah.
cornerback that they signed from Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
Sean Murphy Bunting had 3 interceptions during the Super Bowl run as a rookie for the Bucks. He's a very I guess he's got great ball skills. Like he finds a way to make plays on the ball as a physical cornerback at 6'1" with good arm length. And the Titans last year gave up the most passing yards in the NFL on defense, but they also were like the number 2 best run defense in the NFL. And if you look at like total rushing yards allowed, they were number 1.
Right.
So how do you have that going on? The Titans got beat so many times last year in one-on-one isolated. The Titans love man coverage on third down. Right. Chips are on the table. They're playing cover 1 man with a robber over the middle of the field. That's what they want to do. So you could do that, but your cornerbacks have to win in one-on-one contested catch situations because eventually quarterbacks are just going to throw it up to their big talented receivers and see what happens if no one's covered because it's man and the pressure's on. So the Titans had a ton of injuries in the secondary at cornerback, at safety. They had smaller cornerbacks playing outside, like Roger McCreary, who was a rookie last year, who's 5'11" with really short arms, is playing outside cornerback when he needs to be playing inside the slot. And they just lost a bunch of one-on-one matchups and man coverage on the side of the field. I mean, Mac Hollins in week 3, Daimi Brown in week 5, Alec Pierce in week 4, Mike Williams ruined them at the end of the game and won the game with a one-on-one catch on the sideline. So the Titans have to get better in those scenarios. Sean Murphy Bunting was added as the cornerback, and I think if he's able to stay healthy, which he couldn't do last year with Tampa Bay, and that's why he was a free agent and they moved on. If he could stay healthy, it's like $5 million, probably $3.5, $4 million guaranteed in there, I think. But it's not a contract that got a ton of pub. But I think Sean Murphy Bunting could be like the number 1 corner for the Titans and really improve one of their big weaknesses from last year that hurt them over and over and was their Achilles heel on defense.
Okay, gotcha. So the Titans, like you mentioned it earlier, you're thinking about an 8-9 win team. That's kind of where I was thinking. Is that where you're predicting they're going to be? I haven't really gone over their schedule with a fine-tooth comb yet, but I'm guessing just from the makeup of their team, what they do well, what they don't do well, I'm thinking 8-9. I think people are thinking that the Jags are going to take this gigantic leap and win 12 or 13 games. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Jags are maybe the best team in that division, but I don't think they're going to win 12 or 13 games. I think the Titans, if they can figure out and win a couple games that maybe they're not supposed to win and don't lose too many that they shouldn't, I think they're right there again at the end to try to win this division.
Well, I think you're right, and that's what will keep the fans under the spell. You know what I mean?
Right.
If the Titans beat the Jags, they win the division, they lose in the first round of the playoffs again, and then everybody's going to be like, well, if we just give Tannehill more help, if we just add this and that, and blah, 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 and then the fans are back in, we got them. You know what I mean? But I think you're 100% right. And I want to real quickly just point out 2 reasons with the Jaguars. One, last year was Doug Peterson's first year. Tape study on the Jags, how they adjust. Okay, it was like playing a new team in the back half of the season compared to the first half of the season because they adjusted to what they did and didn't do well in the first half themselves. And now they're putting in new stuff at the end, like, oh, we do these things well, let's expand upon them. Now everybody's been like, oh, we've not only seen what your plan is, we've seen how you adjust when we do this to your plan. So in that second year of a new offensive system with young talent, there's always some catch up with the rest of the NFL. So I think that, and Jacksonville played a last place schedule
Yeah,
last
they
year.
did.
And
Yep.
in the NFL, that means you play whoever finished in last place last year
Yeah.
and all the other divisions in your conference. When you play the other division in the NFC, you're going to play some of the bad teams. Like when you're matched up for your 17th game, they do that by. So Jacksonville had a really easy schedule last year, not to mention the AFC South is easy too, and that should be 4 wins. But they had a much easier schedule last year than they're going to have this year because now they get a first place schedule. They
Yep.
play Kansas City. They play Cincinnati. They
Yep.
play Buffalo. Like they're playing the best teams in the conference now on a week-to-week basis. And those two things together means I think Jacksonville's still a good team, but they may not, like you said, take that 12, 13 win jump. They may be around 10, 11 wins, which leaves them right in Mike Vrabel range.
That's
Mike
right.
Vrabel can come get them. You
That's
know what
exactly
I mean?
right.
So, and one thing I want to mention here is the injuries. I've hinted at it, but the Titans had 91 players on their roster in 2021, the most in the NFL. They put 34 players on injured reserve at one point in time or another last year, league leading in the NFL. If the Titans literally have just a modicum of health this year compared to their previous 2 seasons, I mean, they're going to win 8, 9 games, maybe 10 at that point. And again, I keep hinting at it, but if they sign Hopkins, if they bring in DeAndre Hopkins, I don't even think he has to be D-Hop or whatever. I think if he's just a solid number 2 to Treylon Burks, who people aren't talking about enough, then the Titans have a chance to win 11 games and win the AFC South and, make themselves look like who they've been the previous few years. So while I do right now see the Titans as an 8-win team, I could see them winning 9 wins. The Hopkins trade or the Hopkins signing, if that happens, could obviously change things. But I think the real question here is, are the Titans a Super Bowl contender? Even if they get Hopkins, I don't see how they could defeat Buffalo, Cincy, Kansas City to win the Super Bowl. I still don't know if they quite have enough there. So that's basically where I'm at overall in the big picture with the team this year. I was a proponent of go with Malik Willis, go with Will Levis, tank or whatever you want to call it. I say prioritize the future is what I would call it publicly. But they didn't do that. So they better go out and win as many games as possible now if that's the path that they're going to try to go down. I just don't know if that path can end with a Super Bowl at the end of the day. So seems a little futile.
I 100% understand, but man, I tell you what, that's why we watch the game. That is literally why we watch the game.
Mike Vrabel doesn't care what I think about this team.
That's
Super Bowl
right.
chances.
They never
You know what
care.
I mean? He doesn't care. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, my man. Again, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us, talk a little bit of Titans football. Anytime, if I get an opportunity, which I absolutely will, I would love to have you back on, man. So I can't thank you enough for joining us today and talking a little bit of Titans football.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really truly my favorite thing to do in the world. And I'm blessed that I've been able to turn it into a way to pay the bills around here as well. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I do a lot of little things like this. This felt like sitting at the bar, drinking a beer, talking football with a buddy, man. I had such a great time just talking about stuff back and forth. It's great. Anytime I can make it on, I'd love to. And good luck with the rest of the season and everything and your show as well.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. And have a good day. You have a good one.
Yep. You too. Thanks.
All right.